Howdy, y'all. I'm late again, here for your daily Bible readings. And this is a long chapter tonight. And I said I was not going to do any redneck ramble, but I changed my mind. I don't think I told y'all that tomorrow night, the library here, we've got a new librarian, and she is really awesome. She has programs for people of all ages. Every day there's some kind of program going on at the library. It's mostly for little kids, people reading books for little kids. And but she's also got programs for teenagers after school, and she's got two programs a week for adults. And one of them is on Tuesday morning. It's get together and drink coffee and chat and work jigsaw puzzles and color. She has different pictures, different uh, skill levels, from big sections that's all one color to little tiny, a few big sections that's each section is a different color, and little tiny sections, hundreds of them. So she's got stuff for people of all ages, and I like that. I went a couple of times and I enjoyed it. One time, well, both times I went, they were doing coloring, and I hadn't colored since I was a little kid, but it was fun. I didn't finish the picture I picked out, I didn't finish it in the hour that the program lasted, but what little bit I got done looked pretty. And now for tomorrow night, I guess she's doing it at nighttime instead of during the day because she wants to involve all adults, including the working age adults. But she's having an adult spelling bee. And I signed up. I used to be a good speller in high school, and I was in spelling bees several times. And it's fun. And I don't know, with my old memory as horrible as it is now, I don't know how good I'll do. And I'm competitive. I want to win. There's no prizes. It's just, the honor of being the winner or the honor of being the loser. And there'll be a whole lot more losers than there are winners. And I don't know how many people signed up. When I signed up, it looked like there was about 20 people's names on the list, and I don't know but 4 or 5 people here, so it'll probably be me and a room full of strangers competing to see who's the best speller. But today I got thinking I need to practice up. I try to get, you can do it by yourself, or you can have a team member, or you can have a team up to 4 members, and I don't know how that works. Maybe if one of you misspells a word, the other 2 or 3 or 4 gets to have a chance at spelling it correctly. I have no idea how a team works, but it's just me. I tried to get Nicole to go with me in case there was any medical words, like uh, hysterectomy or something like that. I don't know how to spell that. I can make a guess at it, but I don't know. Uh, but she said nope. Said she was in a spelling bee in high school, and the very first word she missed miserably, and said it embarrassed her so much she would not do another spelling bee. So I'm a party of one. I don't have any team. But today I got to thinking I ought to study spelling, some of the big words that I think I know, like how do you spell mercurochrome? The orange antiseptic for minor wounds, mercurochrome, and the mercurochrome that they paint your body with before they do surgery, or at least they used to. I don't know if they still do or not, to kill any germs. I don't have a clue how to spell mercurochrome, and I'm sure Nicole doesn't either. But anyway, I, there's a there's no stores here in town that sells books, but there is a resale shop that has all kind of books, and so I dropped by there to see if they might by chance have a dictionary, and they had 5 or 6 dictionaries, but they were all paperback, falling apart, literally pages falling out of them. If I'd owned that store, I wouldn't even put those books out on a shelf, but they were there. Plus, they had this one that I bought. This is a big, heavy dictionary, and I never heard of that name before, but it's got thousands and thousands of words. And I hadn't, other than just thumbing through it at the resale shop today. I don't know what's in it, but I haven't looked in it except for briefly at the resale shop. But tomorrow, all day, I'm going to wake up and spend my morning time with God and His Word and in prayer like I do every morning. I've got to have that. And then the rest of the day, I'm going to be studying the Bible. I mean, the dictionary. So y'all pray for me to do good and not get embarrassed like Nicole was back in high school. I keep thinking about big words in my head, and I still remember how to spell all of them that I could think of, but I, I'm sure there's 10, 100,000 gazillion more out there that I didn't think of. And that's probably the ones that whoever does the spelling bee will pull up. I don't know how it works. It's been, goodness gracious, y'all, it's been 56 years since I graduated from high school. And I don't think I did spelling my junior or senior year. I might have my freshman and sophomore. I remember spelling bees in elementary school. Second grade, I remember a spelling bee. And that's just when you're learning to spell. Uh, and I remember a couple in high school. But anyway, that's what I'll be doing tomorrow night. Y'all pray for me that I'm the winner. I got to be the winner. I don't know, you know, doing my street ministry, I haven't met any intelligent people, but I'm sure in this town there are intelligent people. And I'll probably meet them tomorrow night. Oh, goodness, y'all. I, I got pain out the kazoo. I'm so tired of pain. I, uh, the reason I'm late, I'm prescribed a lot of pain medication, and I don't usually take all that's prescribed me. Like I'm prescribed X number of tablets of this per day and X number of tablets of that per day. etc. And I usually don't take as many as are prescribed, but I had to have one around 3 or 4 o'clock this this afternoon. So I took one, and it knocked me out, and I've been asleep. Now I'm awake. That's why I'm late. So, but the good thing about YouTube, if you're not here tonight to get your daily Bible reading, it'll be here in the morning. Unless the rapture happens tonight, then I imagine soon after the rapture happens and the world is finally rid of all the religious nuts that the world pretty much hates, I imagine anything to do with God, religion, the Bible, Christianity, etc., will be wiped out off the internet. I don't know, but that's my thinking anyway. So it may or may not be here during the tribulation period. I hope they're here. I don't know what good my redneck rambles and my Bible sharing will do anybody, but hopefully it might touch somebody and some souls might be saved. I hope. That's the whole reason I'm here, y'all, to share Jesus and God's holy word and to have a place to vent my redneck ramble. And that's not why I started the channel. I'm sure God is sitting up there like that, shaking his head every time I get on here. But I hope I do somebody some good. Or not me. I don't want any of the glory. I want all the glory to go to God. I hope God uses me to get his word out to somebody that wouldn't listen to a preacher or somebody that actually went to school and studied the Bible. Continuing, 1 Kings chapter number 7. But Solomon was building his own house 13 years, and he finished all his house. 13 years to build a house. He built also the house of the forest of Lebanon. The length thereof was 100 cubits, and the breadth thereof 50 cubits, and the height thereof 30 cubits, upon 4 rows of cedar pillars, with cedar beams upon the pillars. You know, why is all that important for us? The size. Why is that stuff in the Bible? I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know. And what it was made out of, I don't know. It's interesting for me. When I started college, my aspirations was to be an architect. I took drafting in school, and I was good. I was probably the best student that the uh, drafting teacher had. I loved it. I really liked it, and that was back in the old days before computer aided drafting, and even before the days of the oh, I can't even think what it's called. The uh, the rulers. They're not rulers, but the horizontal straight edge and the the vertical straight edge and the horizontal straight edge that you use to draw, and then you would lay your triangles in there for the different angles that you needed to draw, and you used a drafting table. Anyway, that's what I learned on. Well, I didn't learn on that. I learned when you had T-squares, a T-square, you'd put your triangles and stuff in, and you'd move your T-square wherever you wanted it, either vertically or horizontally along the drafting table. And then they came out with those machines that would do it, and you could rotate it, where your angle was at different angles. And then they came out with computer aided drafting, and I was right at the period where I got to do all three. I started off with T-square and uh, a set of drafting instruments, and then I graduated in college to the drafting machines. And then the first job I got, uh, working in an engineering department, I was the youngest engineer there when computer aided drafting came out, and so they told me, Bubba, you're going to learn how to work that machine. I didn't know diddly about computers. They had just come out, but I learned fast. They sent me to a school with the company that made and back then, those computer aided drafting machines, they were humongous. They were 4 feet wide and 4 or 5 feet tall, had a big screen on them, and a computer typewriter keyboard down below. And you did everything by typing. And in high school, I took typing. I could type good. Matter of fact, for years, I could type over 100 words per minute. And I don't know about today, but 2 or 3 years ago, I could still type fast. I don't ever type anymore, but uh, I even a few years ago, I could still probably type 70 or 80 words a minute. But anyway, I got good at it. And then, they kept, and I learned how to write. Well, the first computer they got was just for doing math calculations, for engineering calculations. And I could do them all in my head. I didn't need a computer, but it was cool to have a machine that would do it for you. And the first computer that they got there at that engineering department was the monitor and keyboard, all the monitor, CPU, and the keyboard all one piece. And it was heavy and it was big. And I learned how to work it. And then a few years later came the computer aided drafting machines, and I was an engineer then. We had draftsmen to do what I started off doing, but since I was so good on the computer, they put me on the computer aided drafting, and I went back to drafting for a short while until they got some draftsmen trained to do it. They got the machine, and I figured that one out by myself. It was the other one that I went to school there in Houston for 2 or 3 days to learn how to work, because I had never seen a computer. I didn't know anything about them. But anyway, I don't know why I got off on that, chasing that rabbit. I got no idea. It has nothing to do with, oh, yeah, it does have to do with the Bible reading. about the sizes of the buildings and everything, and the material that the buildings was built out of. It reminds me of when I started off in college being an architect. You had to figure out all that stuff, and it was fun. I loved it, but I guess after the first year, I switched from majoring in architecture to majoring in mechanical engineering. I thought mechanical engineering would be more fun, and I don't know what architecture's like because I didn't finish, but I loved being a mechanical engineer. It was fun. It was challenging, but it was fun. I, all every job I ever had was fun. And my first job, I worked, and I think I was too young to drive, but I drove like 25 miles to work, working at a Exxon gas station, except back then it was called Esso, ESSO, and then it changed to Exxon. And I got paid $1 an hour. Had my own car even before I had a driver's license, and because I worked jobs all the time, doing different things. I've been a worker since I was too young to drive. Now I don't. Now I sit on my butt and don't do anything. And I retired at 46, and then the company called me back, and I worked 3 more years in England for them. Retired for good at 49. So I hadn't done diddly since I was 49 years old. But anyway, that's why this is interesting to me. I just don't understand why it's in the Bible. Why does people need to know how big the buildings were and how big the rooms were and what materials was? I don't know, but there's a reason, or it wouldn't be in this book. So I'm going to read them to you. And I have absolutely no idea where I left off, so I'm starting over at verse 1 of chapter 7. But Solomon was building his own house 13 years, and he finished all his house. After 13 years, I hope so. He built also the house of the forest of Lebanon. The length thereof was 100 cubits, and the breadth thereof 50 cubits, and the height thereof 30 cubits, upon 4 rows of cedar pillars, with cedar beams upon the pillars. And it was covered with cedar above upon the beams that lay on 45 pillars, 15 in a row. And there were windows in 3 rows, and light was against light in 3 ranks. And all the doors and posts were square, and the windows and light was against light in 3 ranks. And he made a porch of pillars. The length thereof was 50 cubits, and the breadth thereof 30 cubits, and the porch was before them, and the other pillars and the thick beam were before them. Then he made a porch for the throne, where he might judge, even the porch of judgment, and it was covered with cedar from one side of the floor to the other. And his house where he dwelt had another court within the porch, which was of the like work. Solomon made also a house for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken to wife, like unto this porch. And there were of costly stones, according to the measures of hewed stones, sawed with saws within and without, even from the foundation unto the coping, and so on the outside toward the great court. And the foundation was of costly stones, even great stones, stones of 10 cubits. That's a big stone. And stones of 8 cubits. Remember, a cubit is 18 inches. And above were costly stones after the measure of huge stones and cedars. And the great court round about was with 3 rows of huge stones, and a row of cedar beams, both for the inner court of the house of the Lord, and for the porch of the house. And King Solomon sent and fetched Hiram out of Tyre. He was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning work to work all works in brass. And he came to King Solomon and wrought all his work. For he cast 2 pillars of brass of 18 cubits high apiece, and a line of 12 cubits did compass either of them about. And he made 2 chapiters of molten brass to set upon the top of the pillars. The height of the one chapiter was 5 cubits, and the height of the other chapiter was 5 cubits. Now I gotta look up and see what a chapiter is. I don't remember. And nets of checker work and wreaths of chain work for the chapiters which were upon the top of the pillars, 7 for the one chapiter and 7 for the other chapiter. And he made the pillars and 2 rows round about upon the one network to cover the chapiters that were upon the top with pomegranates, and so did he for the other chapiter. I bet that was cool with pomegranates. I had pomegranate trees back in Texas. I love pomegranates. I started off with one, then I got another one, and then I started making my own. I started a new orchard out back, and I had 4, I think, 4, it's either 4 or 6 new pomegranate trees back there. That place is like my Garden of Eden, God's Garden of Eden that he let me tend. It was cool with berries and nuts and fruits and vegetables, honeybees. And the chapiters that were upon the top of the pillars were of lily work in the porch, 4 cubits. And the chapiters, and grapes also, green grapes and black Spanish grapes. And the chapiters upon the 2 pillars had pomegranates also above, over against the belly which was by the network, and the pomegranates which were 200 in rows round about upon the other chapiter. And he set up the pillars in the porch of the temple, and he set up the right pillar and called the name thereof Jachin, and he set up the left pillar and he called the name thereof Boaz. And upon the top of the pillars was lily work, so was the work of the pillars finished. And he made a molten sea 10 cubits from the one brim to the other. It was round all about, and its height was 5 cubits. And a line of 30 cubits did compass it round about, and under the brim of it round about there were knops, knops, compassing it, 10 and a cubit, compassing the sea round about. The knops were cast in 2 rows, when it was cast. It stood upon 12 oxen, 3 looking toward the north, and 3 looking toward the west, and 3 looking toward the south, and 3 looking toward the east. And the sea was set above upon them, and all their hinder parts were inward. And it was an hand breadth thick, and the brim thereof was wrought like the brim of a cup, with flowers of lilies. It contained 2,000 baths. And he made 10 bases of brass. 4 cubits was the length of one base, and 4 cubits the breadth thereof, and 3 cubits the height of it. And the work of the bases was on this manner. They had borders, and the borders were between the ledges. And on the borders that were between the ledges were lions, oxen, and cherubims. And upon the ledges there was a base above, and beneath the lions and oxen were certain additions made of thin work. And every base had 4 brazen wheels and plates of brass, and the 4 corners thereof had undersetters. Under the layer were undersetters molten at the side of every addition, and the mouth of it within the chapiter and above was a cubit, but the mouth thereof was round after the work of the base, a cubit and a half. And also upon the mouth of it were gravings with their borders, 4 square, not round. And under the borders were 4 wheels, and the axle trees of the wheels were joined to the base, and the height of a wheel was a cubit and a half a cubit. Did y'all see? I don't know if y'all read other viewers' comments to videos, but Cherry Richardson, that watches here regularly, said that there are videos on YouTube about about Solomon's temple. I need to go watch some of those. That would be really interesting and exciting to see. And if y'all want to watch other YouTubers, I won't get jealous. Matter of fact, I recommend some of them to you. And the work of the wheels was like the work of a charlotte wheel. Their axle trees and their naves and their felloes and their spokes were all molten. And there were 4 undersetters to the 4 corners of one base, and the undersetters were of the very base itself. And in the top of the base was there a round compass of half a cubit high, and on the top of the base of the ledges thereof and on the borders thereof were of the same. For on the plates of the ledges thereof and on the borders thereof he graved cherubims, lions, and palm trees, according to the proportion of every one, and additions round about. After this manner he made the 10 bases. All of them had 1 casing, 1 measure, and 1 size. Then made he 10 layers of brass, 1 layer, it's not layer, it's laver, Laver. Then he made 10 lavers of brass, and 1 laver contained 40 baths, and every laver was 4 cubits. And every one of the 10 bases 1 laver. And he put 5 bases on the right side of the house, and 5 on the left side of the house, and he set the sea on the right side of the house, eastward over against the south. And Hiram made the lavers and the shovels and the basins. So Hiram made an end of doing all the work that he made King Solomon for the house of the Lord. The two pillars and the two bowls of the chapiters that were on the top of the two pillars, and the two networks to cover the two bowls of the chapiters which were upon the top of the pillars, and 400 pomegranates for the two networks, even 2 rows of pomegranates for one network, to cover the two bowls of the chapiters that were upon the pillars, and the 10 bases and 10 lavers on the bases, and 1 sea and 12 oxen under the sea, and the pots and the shovels and the basins, and all these vessels which Hiram made to King Solomon for the house of the Lord were of bright brass. And the plain of Jordan did the king cast them in a clay ground between Succoth and Zarthan. And Solomon left all the vessels unweighed, because they were exceeding many, neither was the weight of the brass found out. And Solomon made all the vessels that pertained unto the house of the Lord, the altar of the gold, and the table of gold, whereupon the showbread was, and the candlesticks of pure gold, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left, before the oracle, with the flowers and the lamps and the tongs of gold, and the bowls and the snuffers and the basins and the spoons, and the censers of pure gold, and the hinges of gold, both for the doors of the inner house, the most holy place, and for the doors of the house, to wit, of the temple. So was ended all the work that King Solomon made for the house of the Lord. And Solomon brought in the things which David his father had dedicated, even the silver and the gold, and the vessels did he put among the treasures of the house of the Lord. And that is that, finally, y'all. I apologize for all the redneck ramble. This is a long video. Well, it's not so long. I've done longer. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And that's that for now. I'm going to be reading my dictionary, trying to wake up my brain. God bless you, friends.